I'm going to do a little bit of background because I think it's helpful to understand what happened historically as far as suffrage and voting. Colonial history, we go back to our early history, our founding fathers, the creation of this country, obviously. Colonial voting belonged to what group? Who got to vote?
Landowners.
Yes, only men, white men that owned property. That was it. So I tried to check on percentage. I think it was 10 or 15% of the people in our democracy were the only ones that got to vote. Now that gradually expanded, and by 1840, most white men could vote. Whether they could read or not didn't really matter, of course. It was a different time. So the women's movement for suffrage then started to evolve officially beginning in 1848 in Seneca Falls, New York. There was a two-day convention held, and people like Frederick Douglass was there supporting the women's cause because so many of these reform movements were cross-discipline. There were movements to prohibit alcohol and free the black population, and so there was a variety of movements to improve our institutions, our schools, and so on. So this was just one of the reform movements of the time period. So at Seneca Falls, New York, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, who was one of the women, the national women that came to Hebron, and Lucretia Mott were the two women who organized that first suffrage convention. And so that is the official beginning in your history books when you go back and look at the movement. And it's ironic that during the Civil War, at the end of the war, the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments were passed. 13 freed the slaves, 14th guaranteed them due process, and the 15th Amendment gave black men the right to vote. Now, of course, it worked a little bit until Reconstruction was over, the troops were pulled out of the South, and that was kind of the end of black men utilizing the vote very regularly, or safely, I should say. And so after 1869 then, basically every year a constitutional amendment to allow women to vote was promoted, but it always failed because who voted? And it wasn't a real popular thing at the time, certainly. And so in Nebraska, the first was the Hebron Literary Association under the leadership of Lucy Carell and about 35 women who formed this literary association became the first suffrage association in Nebraska. So Thayer County gets credit for that. Mary Green was one of the early also people involved in this movement, and eventually her daughter Ivy. This went on. Each year they would promote this and push, and Carell in Nebraska, he promoted it in the legislature when he was a member of the Nebraska legislature. He tried to get a Nebraska amendment to allow women to vote, but it always would fail. And so, as we worked into the 20th century, during World War I, women got after President Wilson. Come on, half the people in this country couldn't utilize any power at all. They weren't participants in this democracy. And so he didn't initially agree with this, but by the end of the time period, I think he started to realize maybe that was the appropriate thing to do, to be more supportive. And so, by 1920, the 19th Amendment was finally ratified. Took about 35 states to agree, and women, after 1920, or in that election, were allowed to vote, so they got suffrage. And I think one thing about it, and I have always talked about this a little bit, is we always talk about history, his story. Now we have to look at her story a little bit. So a lot of what we're focusing on today is some of these early women who were leaders in this movement, especially focused here locally. And by the way, that took over 70 years from Seneca Falls to getting the right in 1920. So it was a huge expansion of voting in this country. Carlise, are you guys ready? All right, let's have a little march here.
We want to vote. We want the vote. It's
Great job, ladies. Good enthusiasm. All right, give these ladies a hand. Thank you, ladies. I'm going to briefly introduce some of our honored guests and speakers here. Dennis Farrell is a great grandson of the Corrells, Erasmus and Lucy. So, Dennis, you want to stand up? He came here from Manson, Iowa. So, give him a hand. Also, I'm assuming Dan is here? No? No Dan? Okay. Okay, we will introduce Dan when he gets here. Again, the time frame because of the rain, which we all are thrilled we have rain, so nobody's complaining. Ivy Scher. Is Ivy? Oh, here we are. Ivy, welcome. Ivy is the great-great-granddaughter of Ivy Green. And I'm sure it's wonderful that she shares the name. So. Dr. Amy Force? No? Yes, there. Okay, okay. Welcome. Dr. Amy Force is here representing the DAR and the Pomeroy Foundation, which has provided one of the lovely signs in our park, our Legacy Park downtown by the library. And we will give you a chance here if you want to interject some information, share with us. That would be awesome. But I am just introducing people at this time, and so we'll have you come up in a minute. Locals who are stepping in the shoes of Erasmus and Lucy Correll are Dave and Lee Cording, our local residents here. So I'm going to turn the mic over to them.
Some years ago, Jackie Williamson asked me to portray Erasmus Correll at a meeting of the Thayer County Historical Society. And so once again, I'm going to attempt to channel him, not speaking necessarily all of his words directly, but hoping that I captured his ideas. 6 years before I came here to survey and lay out what has become this beautiful city, our late president, Mr. Lincoln, spoke at a cemetery dedication at a battlefield near a small town in Pennsylvania. He described this country as a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. He then described the ongoing Civil War as one testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated could long endure. Ladies and gentlemen, I submit to you the proposition that every time we go to the polls to cast our votes for our founders, we again test whether our nation will endure. Having lived under a regime where decisions of government could be made and carried out by the whims and fancies of one man wielding a pen, or the actions of Parliament composed of a privileged few, our founders chose to design a government in which those decisions could be made by the collective reasoning of many persons representing the people. They regarded the necessity of the decision-making by the people as so vital that they embodied that importance in the very first words of our Constitution. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union. How then were the people to be enabled to make these decisions? Our founders were familiar with the concept of voting, but accustomed to the idea which prevailed in England, that voting was to be restricted to male landowners. Like the government of the United States, which is constantly a work in progress, voting has also been a work in progress, expanding from male landowners to male property owners in general to, quote, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, and describing all such persons as citizens. How it escaped the notice of the drafters of the 14th, 15th Amendment that women were persons and a constituent part of the people of this great nation can only be explained by what I think of as the aristocracy of the male sex. The 14th Amendment marks the origination in the Constitution of the word citizen to further define what constitutes the people of the United States. One can become a citizen in one of three ways: by being born within the geographic territory of the United States, by being naturalized, or like me, being born outside the country to parents who are citizens. One of the curiosities of our nation's history is that not one signer of the Declaration of Independence, not one drafter of the Constitution of the United States was a United States citizen, simply because the United States did not exist at the time of the signing of the Declaration or the drafting of the Constitution as we know it, which did not take place until 1789. Not one of our first 7 presidents was a citizen of the United States at the time they were elected to the presidency, because they were each born before the formation of the United States as we know it, and were never naturalized. What all these men did hold in common was that they were part of the people. And the lawyer and farmer from Virginia realized that the sheep farmer from Pennsylvania and the silversmith from Massachusetts and the backwoods trapper from North Carolina were each entitled to the same right to direct the destiny of their country as he had. But what about their mothers, wives, sisters, and daughters? Were these not people of the United States? And did they not meet the definition of citizen of the United States? Miss Susan B. Anthony and Mrs. Elizabeth Cady Stanton spent their adult lives in a quest to assure that women were seen as persons, as citizens, as part of the people of the United States. Neither lived to see their goal of votes for women accomplished, but like the woman who plants an acorn so that another woman, unknown to her and yet unborn, might sit in the shade of the oak tree that grows, their efforts paid off after their lives in the form of the 19th Amendment to the Constitution, ratified August 18, 1920. Since then, the right of citizens to vote has been expanded to all citizens 18 years of age or older, demonstrating once again the fact that this great nation is always a work in progress, and that any attempt to control the nation's destiny by restricting or limiting the right of the people to vote is an act of regression that defies the very principles on which the nation exists and is therefore un-American. So let us pledge ourselves to cast intelligent, informed votes for our representatives, senators, and presidents, as well as all local government leaders, so that we can continue to honor Mr. Lincoln's desire that government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from the earth.
Okay, we're going to listen to some comments from Ivy, the great-great-great-granddaughter of Ivy Green, yes.
My name is Ivy Green. My parents, William and Mary Green, my sister Lizzie, and I arrived in Hebron by covered wagon on June 9, 1871. I was 11 years old. I recall that we arrived here just 1 year after the town of Hebron was fully organized. We saw only 3 houses, not a tree or bush nearer than the Little Blue River. We met our friends L.J. Correll and family and settled into 5 small rooms over Mr. Smith's store. Soon we arrived sharing these rooms with other arrivals. So Dad quickly built a 3-room house for our family. Lizzie and I attended school in a sod schoolhouse with about 8 other children. Miss Esther Potter was our teacher. By June 1877, my mom and dad had acquired a home on 5th and Olive. It was a framed 2-story home with porches. It also, that year in October, that Mr. Erasmus Carell invited Susan B. Anthony to come to Hebron and speak on bread versus ballot. I remember my mother saying that her good friend Lucy Carell stated that Miss Anthony electrified the audience as she talked of women's rights. Anthony was a woman of wealth and culture who felt women were powerless without their ballot and devoted her time, talents, and means to this work, traveling to the western states. On April 14, 1879, the Literary Association brought Elizabeth Cady Stanton to Hebron to lecture on the Women's Suffrage Association. The next day, April 15, 1879, the Thayer County Women's Suffrage Association was organized, the first permanent women's suffrage association in the state of Nebraska. My mother, Mary Green, was a charter member of this association along with 34 other women. Mother felt it was her privilege to entertain the women speakers in our house, Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton. She found them to be charming and refined in spite of what some believed. She kept a journal that had notes written by suffragists and visited or stayed at our home. My mother was happy that these speakers of national prominence had come to Hebron. I'd like to read a few entries from my autograph book. On April 15, 1879, man and woman were a simultaneous creation, and the title deed to the green earth was given to both alike, with equal dominion over the living things. That was Elizabeth Cady Stanton. And then in my sister's autograph book, she wrote, "And God said, let us make man in our own image, male and female. Made he them and gave them domain over the fish of the sea, the fowl of the air, and every creeping thing. But there is not said of giving man domain over women." I soon joined the Thayer County Women's Suffrage Association and became an activist for the cause. I knew the importance of women's rights, legal protection, and wage inequity. On October 3, 1880, I married Frank Weatherald, an entrepreneur who had come to Hebron in 1873 to establish a new flour mill along with the Little Brew River. I continued to work for the rights of women. I remember in September 1881 we held a basket social on the grounds of Thayer County Courthouse. Basket lunches for 2 were prepared by the suffrage members and auctioned to the highest bidder. Of course, when we shared the lunch with the highest bidder of our basket. We also sold ice cream, lemonade, and buttonhole bouquets at the event. It was a time for all and a fundraiser for our association. After 64 years and a number of failed attempts, the 19th Amendment became law of the land on August 6, 1920. I was able to see the completion of our suffrage efforts. Thank you for coming as we celebrate the courage of these women and men from Hebron who supported the suffrage movement and worked to secure the rights of women.
Going to do just a little advertisement. We have both facilities downtown. We're lucky to have the Brand X and the Blue Bison are both going to serve these box luncheons today, special luncheons for people. You can get them to go if you choose and want to take them home, or you can go to the facilities and enjoy them. I've already got mine on Friday night, so it was quite good. So a little promotion there locally. Amy, do you want to come up and say a word? So this is Lucy. Well, I didn't. Are you going to talk too? Yeah, well, that's fine. Yeah, and then we'll have her. Yeah. There you go.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. I appreciate that. Can everybody hear me? Yeah? Okay. I feel like I'm wearing about 3 hats today. And first of all, it is absolutely surreal to be here because I'm Dr. Amy Forrest. I am the head of the history program at Metropolitan Community College in Omaha, Nebraska. And 5 years ago, in 2020, just as we were shutting down with COVID, I was working with the National Votes for Women Historic Trail Organization. I was the coordinator for Nebraska. And I was looking at various spots in the state that had suffrage activity, but it had not been documented. And I had it narrowed down to about 5 different places, and one of them was Hebron, Nebraska. And I got a hold of Carlise Kenner. I don't know where she went. There you are, okay. And we started this conversation, and what she was telling me, what happened in Hebron, was just so amazing. I just focused everything on Hebron, and that's how we ended up having the Pomeroy Foundation and DAR saying, yes, we need to do this plaque in Hebron. So 5 years after the fact, I'm finally here. And I'm amazed at the amount of people who have been helping on this project. Jackie Williamson, I don't know where you are, but thank you. Okay, the emails back and forth with Carlise, your name was mentioned I don't know how many times. Carla Joe, I don't know if you're here. Yes, okay, awesome. You know, there were a lot of people helping on this project, and I was really impressed with it. It seems amazing that Ivy, who, I don't know if you've seen pictures of your great-great-great-grandmother, but you are the spitting image of Mary Green, which is kind of shocking. I don't know if she had red hair, but the images I've seen, it was black and white, so I don't know, but boy, do you look like her. So, yay to whoever named you Ivy. Oh, will do. Okay. So on behalf of the Pomeroy Foundation, the plaque that was put up is naming Lucy Carell, and here she is, kind of, and also Barbara J. Thompson, who was the postmistress at the time that Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Susan B. Anthony and a few other rabble-rousers, as they were known, these suffragists had come to Hebron. And so the William J. Pomeroy Foundation asked me today to read something from them. They were not able to have a representative come, but because I've been working with them so long, and so has Carlise, they asked me to do it on their behalf. I also have something for Carlise and Jackie Williamson and also Carla Joe from DAR. It is a gorgeous button that says Votes for Women, and it is acknowledging the 2020 centennial, which again, COVID kind of put the kibosh on a few things, but hey, you know, it didn't stop us today, even with the rain. So without further ado, this is from the William G. Pomeroy Foundation. On behalf of the William G. Pomeroy Foundation, congratulations on this exciting milestone as you dedicate your National Votes for Women Trail historical marker. In honor of the centennial of the 19th Amendment, the Pomeroy Foundation proudly partnered with the National Collaborative of Women's History Sites to launch a nationwide marker grant program that commemorates the women's suffrage movement and brings greater visibility to the people and places that shape the fight for voting rights. Through this collaboration, communities across the country are helping to ensure that these powerful stories continue to inspire and educate for generations to come. At the Pomeroy Foundation, a core part of our mission is helping communities celebrate local history by providing fully funded grants for historical markers. Established in 2005 by entrepreneur and philanthropist Bill Pomeroy, the foundation is the nation's leading funder of historical markers, with over 2,700 grants awarded across 49 states and Washington, D.C. So give yourself a pat on the back for having one of them here in Hebron. Pomeroy markers educate the public, encourage pride of place, promote heritage tourism, and preserve history. What truly sets our markers apart is our unwavering commitment to historical accuracy, our gold standard. Through our work with the National Collaborative for Women's History Sites, more than 220 communities like yours have honored the women, many of whom have been historically overlooked, who led and supported the cause of suffrage in their hometowns and states. These markers now stand as permanent reminders of both local and national history. This National Votes for Women trail marker represents a meaningful part of Nebraska women's suffrage legacy. We extend heartfelt gratitude to the National Collaborative of the Women's History Sites. They actually named me Dr. Amy Forrest and Metropolitan Community College, which I do appreciate. Community members, you know who you are. You're all wearing purple shirts. And everyone who made this celebration possible. We are honored to share this moment with you, knowing the Pomeroy marker dedicated today will stand as a lasting testimony to your community's role in women's suffrage history. As you celebrate this legacy, we also encourage you to explore opportunities to commemorate other noteworthy people, places, and events in your area through our additional marker grant, such as Hometown Heritage and others designed to help you tell a fuller story of your community's past. So if anyone knows of anything else historical in Hebron or surrounding communities, please contact me. Thank you for your congratulations from all of us. Thank you and congratulations from all of us, the William G. Pomeroy Foundation. With gratitude and best wishes, Bill Brower, Executive Director, William G. Pomeroy Foundation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We're going to now hear from Lucy Carell, standing in here this morning. I would mention also, if you're not aware, the Hebron Library has a display that's going to be here through the summer, up through September, that came from the Nebraska History Association in Lincoln, and they're loaning it to us. It is their display from the women's suffrage commemoration in 2020. So it's really exceptionally informative, and anytime the library is open, you're please welcome to walk through. It is open for a few hours this morning, I think, isn't it, ladies?
I think from 11 to 2.
11 to 2, okay. So please do that. We will do the ribbon cutting here in a few moments to open up the park, and then we will also do it eventually downtown also. Hopefully, if it's not raining a lot, so.
I am so honored to represent Lucy Carell up here. She was an amazing woman for her time, one of a group of extraordinary and amazing women across the state and across the country. I was born in Pennsylvania, but following the Civil War and the gold rush in California, my family moved to Rockford, Illinois. They didn't find gold there, but I did. I found Erasmus Carell. We were married, and we joined the Disciples of Christ Union Colony on a trip to Nebraska to found a settlement. We first got there was nothing. We homesteaded for a while west of town, and were subject to the same conditions in the common lot of homesteaders of the time: weather, blizzards, drought, wild animals, and prairie fires. I remember very vividly outrunning the flames to a plowed hedge and lying with my shawl over my head to survive the smoke. I did. This was also the time of the worst Indian raids in the area's history. Erasmus was elected captain of a volunteer militia organized by the governor to defend the settlers against the Indians. They thankfully didn't have any really violent battles, but they certainly patrolled and kept the peace. And they existed until federal militia, or the federal Union soldiers, arrived and Fort Butler was established. With the more peaceful atmosphere, the settlement of Hebron was able to go on. And Erasmus was surveyed and platted the city of Hebron in 1869. The next year, we built the first building in Hebron. And in 1871, Erasmus and I established the Hebron Journal newspaper. I wrote columns that were especially for women on practical issues, women in equality in education, finances, legal rights, temperance, and suffrage. Hebron was very progressive and well-informed, a group of college-educated people who banded together, and we created the Hebron Literary Association, a group of men and women. It was for entertainment as well as for serious things. We had recitations and readings, some original, and serious and not so serious debates, from suffrage, the right for women to vote, to whether or not it was moral for Christians to dance. That one took a long time. I was also interested in genealogy. On my mother's side, I'm related to the Bunkers of Bunker Hill in Boston. They owned property there and at Breed Hill, sites of two of the Revolutionary War battles. I organized or helped to organize the Oregon Trail chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution, the DAR, and served as state historian for the group. But suffrage was our greatest passion. And we joined with like-minded, college-educated professional women, Lucinda Russell, Harriet Brooke, Clara Colby, Ada Bittenbender, who was the first woman lawyer in Nebraska. And coincidentally, all were married to progressive, politically active newspaper men. You've already been told about the organization of the Thayer County Women's Suffrage Association, the first in Nebraska, later became Nebraska State Women's Suffrage Association. Erasmus was elected to the legislature, and therein he introduced a bill to amend the Nebraska Constitution to include women in voters. I was secretary for the campaign that would pass that amendment. We were very excited. It seemed like there was a lot of support. The legislature passed it, but then it went to a referendum of the people. And the electorate in the referendum was 100% male. It failed. And Nebraska lost its chance to become the first nation the first state in the nation to grant women's suffrage. We went on. We had a lot of national attention too. In 1882, the National and American Women's Suffrage Associations held conventions in Omaha to help support the suffrage movement and the amendment to the Constitution. At that convention, Lucy Stone declared, "When our feet touched Nebraska soil, we felt as though we should take off our shoes, for the place on which we stand was holy ground, not because of her grand prairies, but because her men are so noble and progressive that they have offered their wives and mothers and sisters equal rights for themselves." Unfortunately, it wasn't all men in Nebraska. That failure ended the Western Women's Journal, which was a magazine published to promote women's rights, a platform for discussion, information, and education. But the groups were not dead. Politically involved women in Nebraska continued to support suffrage and worked on other controversial issues as well, including temperance. They faced great opposition from religious leaders, mostly men, and the liquor interests, definitely men. And after the legislature passed a bill to allow them municipal subjects, that is, vote for city officials, they wanted to put they created a ballot provision that would allow the men to repeal it. A scandal erupted when it was found that most of the signatures on their petition were fraudulent. That particular exercise in futility actually grew support for women's suffrage in Nebraska, quite contrary to what they had wanted to achieve. And after decades of controversy, as you've been told already several times, in 1919, the federal Congress passed the 19th Amendment. Nebraska was the 14th state to ratify unanimously that amendment that gave women the right to vote. In Hebron, in 1920, 98 people registered to vote in Hebron, including me, and 17 men, all who were related to the women. A few weeks later, 31 more women voted or registered to vote, increasing the voter roll by 31%. I was pleased and so proud, as I know that Erasmus would have been, to cast my vote in the first election in which nationally women were permitted to vote at age 70. Legacy Park here in Hebron will help you remember and honor the hundreds and thousands of women and men who fought decades for and won the right to vote for you. This is more than a right. It's a privilege, a responsibility. It's a duty, which when exercised, enables women to become a motive force to fulfill the fundamental belief of those early suffragettes, that a combination of social transformation, idealism, and progress can create a better government in a better world. This is your legacy and the legacy of every American woman. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Lucy. Now we're going to do the ribbon cutting. Oh, yes, I do want to introduce another guest. Dan Carell and his family from Kearney are also here to join us. Another great-grandson of the Carells.
And he has his two daughters with him, so they would be the great-grandchildren.
Okay, and his two daughters. Welcome from Kearney. Now we would like to move forward with our ribbon cutting ceremony. And we need representatives from the Community Fund, the Arts Council of Thayer County, and the City of Hebron. Those people would also join us for the ribbon cutting. There we go. I see some representatives coming up. These people have all been very supportive of our program to build Legacy Park.
Do you want to do it up on the stage?
Up there or right in front? Right in front here would be fine probably also.
We want you to be right in the middle.
Ivy, why don't you join too? Ivy, you want to go down?
Megan
Megan
and Caitlin.
and Caitlin, welcome.
Do we have a representative from the city? Oh, right there.
Yeah.
Okay. Here we go, guys. One of you has to do the
We tested it. It works. Oh, there we go. 1, 2.
Okay, ladies, we still have
too. So I'm going to sing. This is actually from a women's suffrage campaign songbook. And it has the tune of Yankee Doodle. So I'm just going to sing a couple verses. And women, let's get up and let's rally. Nebraska now shall have a song, and surely any noodle might guess the air most dear to her would still be Yankee Doodle. Yankee Doodle, keep it apart, brothers must not flaunt us. Mind the music, keep the step, they will not go without us. Yankee Doodle's wives and girls shall have his full protection, shall share his cares and holidays, and vote at his election. Yankee Doodle, keep it up, yeah, our brothers must not flaunt us. Mind the music, keep the step, they will not vote without us. Lunchtime, so go support the businesses that have the box lunches. Thank you. Perfect. Dan has got a few words to say.
I couldn't hear him. You couldn't hear him.
You have to be right against it.
Yes, David.
That's one thing about the work that's not in this. I know that my father would be so proud of this today. He was very much involved with this family history. I'm afraid that most of the people that knew him and knew the family are gone. It's been so many years. But I just want to appreciate this today. And most of all, I want to thank the people in charge for making this truly what it's about. It's about the history of how this came about. I've been to other ones in Lincoln, and it got all too political, and we all know political things are terrible at this time, so I'm appreciative that you made it truly about the history of how it came about. It's not about today, it's about the past, and hopefully that we will learn from it. Thank you.
Bring the good old bugle boys, we'll sing another song. Sing it with a spirit that shall start the cause along. Sing it as we ought to sing it, cheerily and strong, giving the ballad to the mothers. Hurrah, hurrah, we bring the jubilee. Hurrah, hurrah, the homes they shall be free. So we'll sing the chorus from the mountains to the sea, giving the ballad to the mothers. Bring the dear old banner, boys, and fling it to the wind. Mother, wife, and daughter, let it shelter and defend. Equal rights our motto is, we're loyal to the end.